Hello, YouTube. How are you? Um, this is Jude, and I'm back here with another video for UFC Fight Night Perth, Della Maddalena versus Prates. But before that, we'll just keep doing what we've been doing and look at last card's predictions. I went 7 for 13. I did end up switching my Dumas versus McVeigh pick to McVeigh by round 1 sub, and that is exactly what happened. Um, I do want to say, I thought Julia Pilastri won this fight. I thought the judging was really bad in this one. I thought she won the first round, but all three judges gave it to Talita Alencar. So I thought Fight Feed made a pretty good video on this topic if you want to go watch that, but it's not super relevant. The other fight that I thought could have gone either way was Jackson versus Barcelos, but either way, we went 7 for 13. We got 5 of the fights perfect, and that helped us actually improve this week. We're back up to number 4 on the Tapology leaderboard for the past 10 events because a lot of people struggled with that last event. I think there was maybe 7 plus 180 or more underdogs that won on this card, so that was pretty hard to foresee, but I was happy with my Mechanico pick, I'll say that. We're going to get into UFC Fight Night Perth. Going to go through and do my predictions in real time. And we start with the first fight on the card, which is Cody Steele versus Dom Marfan. And this is going to be Dom Marfan's UFC debut, coming off of the road to UFC. He obviously won all 3 of his fights on there. All 3 of them were by unanimous decision. Got a huge upset in the first round here over UGF Viga. And then these 2 fights, I thought he was just clearly better than both of these opponents and was able to win via his clinch striking and his own control. He was pretty dominant over the course of the tournament, I thought, and he did exactly what he was supposed to do to get his UFC contract. On the other side, we have Cody Steele, who before fighting on Dana White's Contender Series was fighting over in Fury and winning all of his fights by knockout there. Even though Cody Steele has a grappling base and was competing in jiu-jitsu before he turned to professional MMA, he only has 1 professional win by submission, and it just seems that he doesn't even really pursue getting the fights to the ground. It feels like he's okay with being on the feet, and he seems like one of these guys that just kind of fell in love with his hands. And that got him onto Dana White's Contender Series, where I thought he had a really favorable matchup here against Jason Blair. I don't think Jason Blair is good, and that's been proven. But he took this fight into the late second round. It was only a striking match, wasn't able to take Blair down, and he was able to finish him with a body shot, but that was that. Not super impressive. I think Dom Marfan puts the work on Jason Blair. And then in his UFC debut at UFC 312, he was unable to control or take down Rongju. He had 1 takedown in the fight, but got reversed immediately by Rongju. And yeah, Rongju was able to keep this fight on the feet and just throw way more output than Cody Steele, land more, and win this fight comfortably 30-27. And I just think that here again, Dom Marfan just has way more output than Cody Steele. I think Dom Marfan will be trying to hurt Steele in every single position that this fight ends up for all 15 minutes of the fight. I don't think the grappling will really work here for Cody Steele. I think this will be primarily a striking fight. But I do see Dom Marfan using the clinch, which he's so good at, and really punishing Cody Steele with knees to the body, elbows to the head, that sort of stuff. Just really nasty Muay Thai from Dom Marfan, and I think he'll be able to win 2 rounds here. I like Dom Marfan because of his output. He's tough, and he's a really, really well-rounded fighter. His only 2 losses in his professional career are both to Quillen Salkild, and both of those are by submission, but I'm just going to go out and say I think Quillen Salkild is a better grappler than Cody Steele. So I think Don Marfan wins this fight. I think he stays safe, and I think he'll even be able to reverse Cody Steele if this fight does end up on the ground. I'm going to pick Don Marfan to win this fight by a very competitive decision. I'm not confident in this one, and I'm not confident in a lot of picks on this card, but I will say this is really the only underdog that I'm going to pick. I just feel like this week, comparatively to last week, the odds are looking a little more accurate, but I would be shocked because the main event is a pick'em, and then all 11 of these other fights, I'm going to be picking the favorite, and I'd be shocked if that were to happen. So I'm gonna point out where I think I can be wrong, just to give you a heads up. If you're gonna tail my picks, I'll tell you which ones I'm confident in and which ones I'm not. Not super confident in Don Marfan, just a slight lean to him. That was my initial read on the fight, and I'm gonna trust my initial read here. Moving on, we have I'm gonna wipe off my screen. We have Jonathan Mikulev versus Themba Gorimbo, and I do rate Jonathan Mikulev. I think he's really good. His only pro loss is to Alden Bates, who is a guy that has a professional win over Jack Della Maddalena. And then since then, in 3 out of his last 4 fights, he's gotten a submission win. Really impressive triangle here on the Contender Series against Muhammad Adu, and then made his debut against Kevin Doucet, outstruck Kevin Doucet, hurt him on the feet, and just a clean performance there from Jonathan Mikulev in a fight that I did not think he was going to win. And then here against Oban Elliott, he weathered the early storm, took some damage early from Oban Elliott, but once he got this fight to the ground, he was in control, and he was able to submit Oban Elliott, who I think is a very good grappler. And then on the other side, we have Themba Gorimbo. I'm pretty low on Themba Gorimbo comparatively. This win here over Ramiz Brahimaj did age pretty well, but since then, Nico Price wasn't able to finish him. And then I actually did pick him in this fight against Vicente Luque because I just thought Vicente Luque was so washed that he didn't have anything left in the tank. And then no. Luque just sparks him, drops him, submits him with an anaconda in under like 40 seconds. And then here against Jeremiah Wells, he got out-wrestled and just didn't do enough. And I think if you're getting out-wrestled by Jeremiah Wells, you're going to get severely out-grappled by Jonathan Mikulev. And I'm going to pick Jonathan Mikulev to get a second-round submission win here. I don't think Themba Gorimbo is good enough on the ground to not get submitted. I like Mikulev by sub here. Very confident in Jonathan Mikulev and would be shocked if Mikulev lost this fight. Next fight on the card, we have another coin flip. We have Party Time, Wes Schultz versus Ben Johnston. And I heard that Ben Johnston retired from fighting after this fight here against John Martin Frazier, which turned out to be a pretty good win. But yeah, since then, the reason he hasn't fought in 2 years is because he was retired. And I'm guessing he is only unretiring because the UFC called him up and gave him an opportunity here against Wes Schultz. Wes Schultz is a guy that was fighting in LFA. Wes Schultz has a wrestling background. He wrestled at Wyoming briefly, the University of Wyoming, and then he also wrestled at UW La Crosse. But his 3 losses in his career are all to guys who have been in the UFC at some point. Lost to Dylan Budka in the LFA, lost to Mansur Abdul Malik his first time on the Contender Series, and then got a win by Sulov Stretch. This was a really impressive performance here. I am a big fan of Wes Schultz. I was super excited when he got this Sulov Stretch on the Contender Series, but this fight against Damian Panas was rough. He got dropped within the first minute of the fight and really had nothing to offer after that. I just think that cardio is an issue for Wes Schultz. We've seen if Wes Schultz isn't able to get a submission in the first round, he's probably not going to win the fight if it's against any sort of decent level competition. I like Ben Johnson's height advantage here, even though he doesn't have the reach advantage. I just really think here, if you're picking Wes Schultz, you have to pick Wes Schultz by round one submission. That's the only way that I see Wes Schultz getting a win. And I don't think Wes Schultz is terrible. I like Wes Schultz, like I said, but I am just going to pick Ben Johnston in this fight because what I've seen on the feet from Wes Schultz has been pretty abysmal in terms of UFC level striking. And I know the guys that Ben Johnston has fought have all been really bad for the most part, besides John Martin Frazier here, but I just trust Johnston more. I can't trust Wes Schultz to win this fight. Most of his wins are by submission, Johnston that is, but I'm going to pick him to get a second or third round TKO finish here. I just think Schultz won't be able to get the grappling off like he needs to, and he will just start to fade. Johnston won't, and Johnston will apply pressure and get a finish. I'm going to try not to stumble over my words as much. This is a bit rough. Next fight on the card, we have Colby Thickness versus Vince Morales. And if I'm being honest here, I really do want to pick Vince Morales. My initial read in this fight was Colby Thickness is not good. I think Vince Morales might be able to surprise a lot of people here. But Vince Morales, one of his major weaknesses is his takedown defense and getting taken down. This fight here with Elijah Smith was actually pretty close, but Elijah Smith just had more power on the feet. He was able to take down Vince Morales, and he was able to edge that fight out. And then his fight with Raul Rosas Jr., same thing. He was just able to control Vince Morales for 2 rounds and bank that fight. I do think that Vince Morales is probably slightly better on the feet than Colby Thickness is, but if there's one thing about Colby Thickness, it's that he won't stop shooting takedowns. This fight with Josias Musasa was embarrassingly close for him, and that is part of the reason why I do want to pick Vince Morales here. And just fair warning, this is a pick that there is a very high likelihood that I end up switching later in the week. I just have not been impressed at all by Colby Thickness. He shot probably like 14 takedowns here in this fight against Musasa, got 2 of them, and that won him the fight, but I thought he could have lost this fight to Musasa. And before that, he just kind of got dusted by Alexandre Topuria, and a lot of people are saying that Alexandre Topuria is one of the best fighters in this division, and I strongly disagree. I don't think this is as permissible of a loss as people are saying that it is, and this fight here against Musasa was embarrassingly close. So if you're super confidently picking Colby Thickness, I just don't really know how you can be. I am going to lean towards Thickness by close decision, split decision type of fight, just because he's going to keep wrestling, and he's just going to have... He's not going to let himself really get behind on the feet against Vince Morales. If there's one thing about Musasa does have nasty power, and he is an athletic specimen. Vince Morales is not. So I'm going to pick Thickness by decision here, but don't be surprised at all if Vince Morales goes out here, either wins by decision or catches Thickness in a sub when he tries to shoot. He's been super close to getting a sub in this fight against Elijah Smith, and then also in this fight against Raul Rosas, he got close in the 3rd round. And I can see Morales winning this fight by sub or decision, because I do think he's better on the feet, but I'm just going to lean towards the hometown guy and Colby Thickness here. I don't like this pick at all, and I recommend you just do your own tape study and make your own decision for that pick. Our next fight on the card, we have Jacob Malkoun versus Gerald Meerschaert, and I actually do think that Jacob Malkoun is quite good. This loss here to Brendan Allen was pretty competitive. Nick Maximov, Cody Brendage, should have been a win, and then beat Petrosky, knocked him out with his hip, had about a 2-year layoff, and then fought Torres Finney. Looked very impressive in this fight against Torres Finney and took his O. On the other hand, we have Gerald Meerschaert, who has the most experience of anyone on this card card by a country mile. He is 38 years old, and he's now on a 4-fight losing streak. He lost to Rainer de Ritter, lost to Brad Tavares, lost to Mikhail Oleksiejczuk, and lost to Kyle Dawkins. And I think Jacob Malkoun is similar level to a guy like Kyle Dawkins, to a guy like Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. I think he's better than a guy like Brad Tavares, and I think that he'll be able to put away Gerald Meerschaert early in this fight. I'm going to pick Jacob Malkoun to win this fight by round 1 knockout. I just don't think Gerald Meerschaert really has it anymore, and I don't think this fight will extend. If it does extend, it could get interesting, because that's the only way that Gerald Meerschaert really wins is if he drags the fight late and gets a late sub, but I'm picking Jacob Malkoun. There's a reason he's a minus 1,000 favorite here. Sorry. Next fight on the card, we have Junior Tafa fighting against Kevin Christian. And this one is kind of a rarity because it's pretty rare that you'll be trying to pick a fight, and the last fight for each of the guys is against the same opponent. But here that's the case. Both of these guys are coming off losses to Billy Elikana. I do rate Billy Elikana. I think he's pretty good. Not anything super special, but I think he's good. But here, Kevin Christian, really only going to talk about these 3 fights for Kevin Christian. This fight against Miguel Porto, they were just brawling back and forth. He got hurt by Miguel Porto in this fight, but was able to, outlast Miguel Porto. Miguel Porto had about 2.5 minutes of cardio, and then Kevin Christian was just able to put it on him and finish him. And then this fight on the Contender Series was so bad. They shouldn't have even signed him off of this fight. He beat this guy, Francesco Mazzeo, in the second round, but Mazzeo had never been out of the first round, and he just was not a good fighter. He was a Cage Warriors guy. Really don't know why they brought him on to the Contender Series, but yeah, after laying on his back for all of the second round, eventually Kevin Christian was able to lock up a triangle armbar on him. Got smoked by Billy Elikana here. He really had nothing to offer against Billy Elikana besides some leg kicks. Billy Elikana dropped him badly, pounced on his back, and got the submission. The ref didn't see the tap, and Kevin Christian went out cold face down. So that was kind of scary, and that could make him a little more timid in this fight, but I'm not really going to count on that. The other side, we have Junior Tafa, who is 1-4 in his last 5 fights. These 3 were all at heavyweight, so they're not super relevant, but he lost to De Lima, got subbed by Walter Walker, and then his win here was against Sean Sharaf. I think this was a standing TKO or something of the sort here against Sean Sharaf. But since moving down to 205, he has lost both of his fights. He had some success in this fight against Tuco Tokos. I think he dropped Tuco Tokos, but eventually got taken down and subbed. And then this fight with Billy Elikana, he dropped Billy Elikana so bad in this fight. In the first round, I think Billy Elikana woke up when his head hit the canvas because he just folded like a lawn chair when he fell. But yeah, he fumbled this fight against Billy Elikana. Had him hurt really badly, but just kind of let Elikana recover and carry the fight into the second round, where eventually he was able to get on Tafa's back and submit him. All that to say, I'm picking Junior Tafa by round 1 knockout. I just think Kevin Christian's striking defense is so terrible, and if Billy Elikana can find your chin and basically knock you out in the first round, I think Junior Tafa is going to be able to. Unless Kevin Christian shoots off the whistle here, gets his back, something like that, I think Junior Tafa is going to be able to find a win here. I think Kevin Christian's really, really bad. I don't think the UFC should have signed him. Yeah. And, you could say the same thing about Junior Tafa. Junior Tafa's 6-5 in his pro career, but all 5 of those losses have came in the UFC, and now he is fighting a very hittable target. I'm going to pick Tafa by round 1 knockout. Not going to overthink it, but Obviously, if this fight goes into round 2, you're going to want a live bet on Kevin Christian. This is how I see this fight going. I think it's going to happen like this. All right, next fight on the card. This is the featured prelim. And this is a really good fight. We have Cam Rouston versus Robert Brychik. And Cam Rouston is 5-0 in his last 5 after losing on the Contender Series to Torres Finney. And Robert Brychik is 4-1. Cam Rouston got this win over Brandon Holmes on the Contender Series. I thought this was really low-level comp, though. And then made his debut against Petrosky. I picked Petrosky to beat him, and I looked pretty stupid after that fight because Cam Rouston dropped him with a little punch behind the ear and then just was able to pretty much melt Andre Petrosky. This fight against Cody Brundage, I see a lot of people saying that he faced adversity in this fight, and he did. He for sure did. But there was really only about 30 seconds, a minute of this fight where he was facing any real danger against Cody Brundage, and then able to find the finish there against him too with some crafty ground and pound. On the other side, we have Robert Brychik, who was fighting over an octagon before he made his debut. All 3 of these fights in octagon by round 1 knockout. Pretty impressive from Robert Brychik. But he did lose his UFC debut to Ihor Potieria, and after that took about a 1.5-year layoff, came back, and beat Brad Tavares pretty impressively. He hurt him really bad in the first round, kind of took the round off in the second round, and then finished him in the third. And I think this fight is going to be a war. I think the odds are way too wide in this fight, and I think Robert Brychik is a good underdog to be putting money on. Cam Rouston, his head movement worries me. His striking defense worries me. He's not very fast on the feet. I think Robert Brychik is faster. He has faster hands. Yeah, I think this is a really close fight, and it's kind of going to come down to the first round. I see Robert Brychik winning the first round, potentially hurting Cameron Rouston, but I think that Cam Rouston just has higher output. I know I say this a lot, but higher output can often win you a fight when everything else is pretty even. Robert Brychik just gets stuck taking pictures on the feet. I'm pretty sure he only landed like 35 strikes or something like that in this fight against Potieria. And then, yeah, that second round, like I said, he just kind of took that second round off. So I don't know what to think really about Robert Brychik here. I can definitely see a finish happening in this fight, but I'm picking so many finishes on this card. I'm going to pick Cameron Rouston to win this one by close 29-28 decision based on rounds 2 and 3. But I would not be surprised at all if Robert Brychik was just able to find his chin and put him away. Because Cody Brundage was able to find his chin a couple times, and Robert Brychik just has much cleaner boxing than probably anyone Cam Rouston's fought. So this is a close competitive fight, and I don't think that Cam Rouston should be a -250 favorite. I'm not trying to fence it this one, but yeah, I'm just slightly leaning Rouston. Hometown guy here, longer range, taller, higher output, better cardio. That's really what it will come down to for me. But now we're going to move on to the main card, and we have Tai Tuivasa versus Louis Sutherland. I don't want to make a prediction for this fight, but it's kind of what I have to do. Tuivasa's on a 6-fight losing streak. Lost to Gon. Over here, you get out a 6th L. Lost to Gon, lost to Pavlovich, lost to Volkov, lost to Tibura, lost to Rosenstrike, and lost to Teixeira. And while that's not good at all 6 of those guys kill Louis Sutherland, I think. So you do kind of have to put an asterisk next to his 6-fight losing streak when we compare it to Louis Sutherland. Because on the regional scene, Louis Sutherland fighting nobodies, fighting cans, which is usually going to be the case when you're fighting at heavyweight, but especially when you're fighting in Europe at heavyweight, I feel like the competition is just really poor sometimes. If you're not fighting in like Octagon or something like that, you know? But his 2 fights in the UFC, he got smoked. He lost to Walter Walker by a heel hook, wasn't able to do really anything in this fight. And then his most recent fight was about a month ago. I can't believe they really even cleared him. He got knocked out by Brando Pericic in the first round. He tried to take down Pericic, got his takedown stuffed, and got knocked out. He got dropped and then pretty much just turtled up until the ref stopped the fight. And that's one thing that Tuivasa's not going to do. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this fight because you can basically flip a coin. Nobody really knows who's going to win this fight. I'm not going to be shocked either way, but I do think it's going to be a first-round knockout either way. Performance against Teixeira was really bad. It was, but Teixeira is huge at heavyweight, and he was just taking him down. And I don't really think that Louis Sutherland, 1, will really try to take Tai Tuivasa down, or 2, will be very successful in taking Tai Tuivasa down. Yeah, I just don't think Louis Sutherland has a super imposing frame. Obviously, in this picture, he looks good, but he does not look like that in the UFC. It looks pretty evident that he hopped off of a cycle once he had to get tested by USADA. On the other side, it's like, yeah, Tuivasa was 300 pounds in this little layoff here, but I just think he's better. I just think Tai Tuivasa is better. I think Louis Sutherland is going to go straight forward in this fight, and hopefully Tai Tuivasa will find the knockout. He's only 33. I don't think it's a thing where it's like Tai Tuivasa's chin has just deteriorated. I just think they kind of strapped a rocket ship to his back, put him to the top of the division, and then he's just had some really shitty matchups since then. Yeah, some of these are rough. Like this Tabura one was rough, and this Teixeira one was a little bit rough. But I'm still gonna pick Tai Tuivasa. I just don't trust Louis Sutherland. I haven't seen anything from Louis Sutherland that makes me think that I have to pick him. Like, sure, he can go out and get a knockout in the first round, but so can Tai Tuivasa, and that's what I'm gonna pick. Done talking about that fight. It's so bad. Next fight on the card, we have Shamil Gaziev versus Brando Pericic, and this is a higher level heavyweight fight. We have Brando Pericic, who's 2-0 in the UFC, made his debut, against Elisha Ellison, and got a knockout early there, and then same thing against Louis Sutherland, like we just talked about. On the other side, we have Shamil Gaziev, who is, I think, 3-2 total in the UFC. I think these are all 5 of his UFC fights. Knocked out Martin Buday, which is actually a good win. But this fight, 5-round main event, gassed out against Rosenstrike, quit on the stool. Mays here, he just took down Mays, laid on him pretty much, which Thomas Peterson was also able to do. But then he did knock out Thomas Peterson, so that was cool. But after that, he just really had nothing to offer against Waldo Cortez Acosta and got dusted up pretty quickly. It was evident that Waldo Cortez Acosta was the faster and cleaner striker, and I think the same thing can be said in this matchup for Brando Pericic. I think Brando Pericic is the cleaner, more technical, faster, and probably more powerful striker. I'm going to pick Pericic by another round 1 KO here. I like Shamil Gaziev, but I feel like most people like Shamil Gaziev as more of a novelty than anything. I like Pericic to get the finish here early. This is why I delayed my video so long. I was waiting for the UFC/Tapology to officially announce Marwan Grahiki's replacement because I knew that they hadn't fully taken him off the card, and I was just waiting to see who they would give him. So, apologies for that. I know this video is probably going to get even fewer views than the last one because these fights are going to be at 2 a.m. on Saturday, and I'm uploading late on Tuesday, but I don't know, maybe the name value will carry me a little bit. I think this one's pretty straightforward. I haven't watched any tape or really heard of Ollie Schmid, but I'm just going to go ahead and say that Marwan Rahiki will be able to knock him out. I'm going to say round 2 for this fight. This fight against Anias Malumba on the Contender Series was a little bit sketchy because Malumba was able to hurt Rahiki badly a couple times and was able to almost submit him, but we saw his resolve in that fight. He didn't quit. He kept applying pressure, and he found a disgusting finish here. And then his fight against Harry Hardwick was a little bit back and forth in the first round. He was able to spin Harry Hardwick's jaw off. He was able to break his jaw, and then the corner had to stop the fight. He was piecing up Harry Hardwick in round 2 of that fight, and I think he is improving dramatically. I really can't even say anything about Ollie Schmid other than he's lost by knockout before to someone that probably isn't as good as Marwan Rahiki. And this isn't a good breakdown by any means, but I'm just not going to pick Ollie Schmid. I could do all the tape study in the world, and I still wouldn't pick Ollie Schmid. He's taking this fight on very short notice, and I just don't think he's ready. His last fight was against a guy that's 5-5. So I like Rahiki here to do what he's supposed to do and get a knockout. Round 1 or round 2. Featured fight on the card, we have crafty Tim Elliott versus Steve Erceg. Tim Elliott's talking to me like the Green Goblin mask. I want to pick Tim Elliott in this fight. I do, but I just don't think I can when you look at how these two fighters match up against each other. Obviously, Tim Elliott's last 5 fights, he has 4 wins, only 1 loss. Win over Tagir Ulanbekov, win over Altamirano. Only loss is to Makayev in a fight where he was competitive with Makayev. He was able to take down Makayev. He was able to do pretty well against Makayev. After that, about 2.5 years ago, he got a win here on short notice, up a weight class against Sumadarji. And then this fight against Kaya Sakura, he dropped the first round and then, just was able to implement his grappling and lock in a mounted guillotine. I didn't think he was going to win that fight, but he did. He impressed me in that fight. And it's like, wow. Tim Elliott's going to make this a hard fight for Steve Erceg because Steve Erceg had a hard fight against Ode Osborne his last time out. Obviously, a lot of people are talking about this fight with Alessandre Pantoja, and I don't know why I said it like that. It's Alexandre Pantoja, sorry. Which was competitive. It was a very competitive fight, but after that, he just hasn't really shown that he's that same fighter. Getting knocked out in round 1 by Kai Kara France. Obviously, Kai Kara France carries power, but he's not doing that to most people at flyweight. And then he lost this fight to Brandon Moreno as well. Came back. Ode Osborne almost finished him in round 1. And then he was just barely able to squeak out this decision win against Ode Osborne. The way he won this fight was with his wrestling, and I just kind of think that Tim Elliott's a better wrestler than Steve Erceg here. I think Tim Elliott is a very, very live underdog, and that this fight should be closer to a pick'em. Tim Elliott is my favorite underdog on the card, and if I was gonna bet, I would put a nice little chunk of money on Tim Elliott to win this fight. But since I think their wrestling will kind of cancel out here, I think this fight will stay on the feet for the most part, and Tim Elliott does not possess the same power that Ode Osborne possesses, especially up a weight class here, to really hurt Steve Erceg in the same way Ode Osborne, Kai Kara France were able to. So I think this fight will look closer to an on-the-feet striking battle, and I just think Erceg has the cleaner striking. Tim Elliott, obviously very awkward. I can see Tim I can see Tim Elliott winning this fight. Like, I don't really need to keep talking. I just think this is a much closer fight than both the community predictions and the odds are saying. If Usyk tries to wrestle, I can totally see Tim Elliott just out-scrambling him and winning the fight that way, because I think it will be competitive on the feet. I just give a slight edge to Steve Usyk, and that's why I'm going to pick him to win by decision. I'm going to pick Steve Usyk to win this fight by 29-28. Very competitive decision. Co-main event on the card, we have Beneil Dariush fighting Quillan Salkeld. And I think you could say something kind of similar to what I said about Tim Elliott for the last fight that we broke down, but the difference is that Tim Elliott still has a chin. Quillan Salkeld, obviously on a tear. His sole loss in his pro career was in his professional debut in Eternal MMA. Obviously, like I said earlier, he has 2 wins over Dom Marfan, who I rate, and then able to beat Gage Young on the Contender Series, who we saw is a good fighter. Gage Young is good. This is a good win. After that, he smoked Angel Jabli, bit of an early stoppage, but who cares? This fight with Yanel Ashmouz got a little bit dicey, but Ashmouz is good, and Salkeld was able to rely on his grappling to win this fight against Ashmouz, who's a good wrestler. Then Haqparast, obviously, round 1, got that head kick knockout, and this fight was a short notice step up for Jamie Malarkey. Salkeld was supposed to fight Rong Zhu, but got Malarkey instead and was able to submit him early, which is pretty impressive, I think. And it just tells me that even if this fight does go to the ground, I don't think Salkeld will necessarily be in a ton of danger. Yeah. On the other side, we have Beneil Dariush, who about 3.5 years ago got this really good win over Mateusz Gamrot, really good anti-wrestling performance here. But after that, got finished by Charles Oliveira, got finished by Arman Tsarukyan. This was one of the first fight night cards I ever watched. It was Tsarukyan versus Dariush, and I just remember this finish. It was like, what did he even really get hit with? And he was finished. But after that, he was able to win round 2 and 3 in this fight against Moicano after getting dropped early and picking up a decision there. Moicano's good, but this is a completely different matchup. And in his most recent fight, he got knocked out with the first punch that Benoit St. Denis threw, and that was in about 16 seconds. When you put the power of Quillan Salkeld up against the chin of Beneil Dariush, there's really only one obvious outcome in this fight, and that's that Quillan Salkeld is going to win by early knockout. If this fight does extend, it could potentially get interesting if Dariush is just able to do what he did against Moicano and have a similar performance there. It could definitely get interesting, but I'm not going to be the guy that picks Beneil Dariush to go out there and beat Quillan Salkeld. There's a reason the odds look like what they do. I think Quillan Salkeld cashes and gets the first round knockout here. I think that might even be negative odds, as crazy as that is. We're going to move on to our main event of the card. We have former welterweight champion Jack Della Maddalena fighting Carlos the Nightmare Prates. And I really like Prates. I really do like Prates. I was going to say I try to pick fights based on who I think is gonna win and not who I like. But in this case, that is the same person. I am going to slightly lean Carlos Prates in this fight. Just get that out of the way. But Carlos Prates has been on a tear in the UFC. I'm pretty sure his debut was against Trevin Giles, and that fight was a little bit shaky. I see a lot of people talking about that. That fight was probably 2.5, 3 years ago. Carlos Prates has improved a lot since then. But it is true that Trevin Giles was able to give him some problems with his jab and things like that. After that, he finished Radke with the knee to the body. That win is aging really well. Radke is a good fighter. After that, he beat the Leech, knocked out the Leech after dropping him like 3 times. First main event here against Neil Magny. He got an early knockout, stepped into a shot, clipped Neil, like barely even looked like he clipped him on the side of the head, and knocked him out cold. This fight against Ian Gary, he just got outpointed. Ian Gary was able to dance around on the outside and avoid all the shots of major consequence for the first 3 rounds of this fight. Obviously, Carlos Prates rallied late and almost got a finish, but he wasn't able to. But I don't think this is necessarily a bad performance. I think Gary and Della Maddalena would have a very close fight, similar. And then knocked out Jeff Neal with a spinning elbow, and after that knocked out Leon Edwards, which I think is impressive because nobody has really done that to Leon Edwards or really even hurt Leon Edwards that badly up until that point. So yeah, I thought that was a really good win from Carlos Prates there. That is on the same tier as Della Maddalena's win over Muhammad. Jack Della Maddalena was obviously on an 18-fight win streak until he lost to Islam Makhachev. He won this fight with Basil Hafiz, won this fight with Kevin Holland. Both of these are split decisions, but I think it's pretty clear that Della Maddalena wins 2 rounds in each of these fights. This fight with Gilbert Burns, he was struggling a little bit with Gilbert Burns, but eventually got the late finish. And yeah, this fight with Bilal, went to war on the feet with Bilal. He was able to defend most of his takedowns successfully and keep that fight where he wanted it. A lot of people are saying that Della Maddalena ate way too many punches from Bilal, but I just think it's a different matchup and that he wasn't as fearful of Bilal's power as he will be if Prates is here. So I don't think Jack Della Maddalena is going to be as hittable or there to hit in this fight, but I don't really think he'll need to be for a 25-minute fight against Carlos Prates. I just kind of think this fight against Gary was a one-off, and it is going to be very hard to find somebody who isn't a grappler that can strike with Carlos Prates for 25 minutes without getting finished. And that's what it comes down to. I just think Carlos Prates is too dangerous. Even if he's losing this fight, I just think at some point he's going to be able to step into a shot and hurt JDM and put him away. JDM only has 1 pro loss by knockout, but he has not ever fought somebody with the power that Carlos Prates has. Carlos Prates throws nasty elbows, nasty knees, just nasty Muay Thai in general. I think this is a very competitive fight, and I do respect Jack's boxing a lot. I think if he can make this fight his fight, he can make it clean. He'll be able to sort of pick away at Carlos Prates with the jab, and it could look similar to the Ian Gary fight, but I don't think it will. I think that Carlos Prates at some point in this fight is going to be able to find the button and put away Jack Della Maddalena. I'm thinking round 2, round 3 time frame, just because I don't think it's going to be easy to get Jack out of there. But I am going to pick Prates by round 3 knockout. Not a pick I'm super confident in. So we're going to go through the quick picks and then I'll wrap it up because I feel like I've been taking a really long time in this fight. If it'll show me. Maybe not because we have 1 championship here, which I don't want to look at. Hold on. And we can just look through it. Alright, I'm picking Dom Marfan by decision. This is not a high confidence pick for me. Mikulev by sub. I am confident in this one. Picking Ben Johnston to finish Wes Schultz here. Another low confidence pick from me. Thickness to squeak past Vince Morales. This is a super low confidence pick that I might change. I'm just going to feel really stupid if I pick Vince Morales and he loses. So that's kind of my hesitancy. Malkoon, this is a very confident pick. Tafa, this is a medium confidence pick. There's really only two ways I see this fight going. It's either Tafa gets the early knockout, which I think I'm like 75% confident will happen, or the other 25% is that Kevin Christian is able to survive, make the fight dirty, get it to the ground, and submit Tafa. This is another low confidence pick for me. I'm picking Cam Rouston by decision. Low confidence here, Tai Tuivasa. Medium to high confidence here for Brando Pericic. I just like this matchup a lot for him. I think this is favorable. Very high confidence for Marwan Rahiki. The odds are going to be insane. Don't bet on Marwan Rahiki. Tim Elliott versus Steve Erceg. You could flip a coin for this fight. I won't be surprised at all if Tim Elliott wins, but I will be a little upset if he wins and I didn't pick him. Salkeld, medium to high confidence here. And then Prates, this is a low to medium confidence pick. I just think he possesses more danger. But that's about it for my video. I hope I didn't take too long. I don't have like the display up when I'm filming this, so I just see what you guys see. I hope it's not too long. But thank you guys. Thank you to everyone who has been supporting me. Thank you to everyone who takes the time to watch, who takes the time to like, takes the time to comment. It means the world to me. I really appreciate you all. Yeah, good luck this week on your picks, and it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to waking up early to watch some fights, and that'll do it for me today.